See, next we are going to study about the preparation of a strong reducing agent which we call lithium aluminum hydride. So basically, lithium aluminum hydride is a strong reducing agent and it is used in many organic reactions as a reducing agent. So basically, it is a type of hydride donor. So the reduction process by lithium aluminum hydride is through hydride donor. We can also see that when lithium aluminum hydride breaks, it forms Li plus and AlH4 negative. So basically, it donates its hydride ion from AlH4 negative ion. Therefore, we call lithium aluminum hydride as a reducing agent and strong reducing agent, and it is used in many organic reactions as a reducing agent because it is a good hydride donor. See the preparation of lithium aluminum hydride. When lithium hydride is mixed with AlCl3, it forms lithium aluminum hydride and LiCl. So basically, we also know about AlCl3. Anhydrous AlCl3 is used as a Friedel-Crafts catalyst. So anhydrous AlCl3 is used as Friedel-Crafts catalyst. So for preparation of lithium aluminum hydride, what we use? Lithium hydride with AlCl3. In the same way, we can also prepare sodium borohydride. See, sodium borohydride comes under the category of mild reducing agent. So it comes under the category of mild reducing agent. So it is not a strong reducing agent, it is a mild reducing agent. When diborane, so B2S6 is basically a diborane. When diborane is mixed with sodium hydride, it forms sodium borohydride. In the same way, LiAlH4 breaks. In the similar way, NaBH4 also breaks in Na plus ion and BH4 negative ion. So basically, this BH4 negative ion is good hydride donor. So BH4 negative ion is good hydride donor. Therefore, due to hydride donor tendency, NaBH4 also acts as a reducing agent. So it also acts as a reducing agent, but the reducing power of NaBH4 is less than LiAlH4. So LiAlH4 is a strong reducing agent. It is prepared by the use of hydride, and also sodium borohydride is also prepared by using alkali metal hydride, and it is a mild reducing agent. Now see the next type of hydride, which we call metallic hydride. See, so we have studied saline hydrides, salt-like hydrides formed by S-block elements. Now we are going to study metallic hydride or interstitial hydride. See, what are metallic or interstitial hydride? So basically, metallic or interstitial hydrides, these types of hydrides are mainly formed by D and F block elements. We know D block are basically transition elements. So D blocks are basically transition elements, and F block elements can be lanthanoids and actinoids. So basically, D block elements are transition elements. Not all elements are transition elements, but mostly elements are transition elements, and F block elements are lanthanoids and actinoids. So basically, metallic or interstitial hydride are formed by D and F block elements. As we know, metal occupy the structure of lattice. See the arrangement of metal in the form of lattice. So basically, when metals are arranged in three-dimensional space like this, metals are arranged in three-dimensional space and forms a lattice. So basically this form metal, when their lattice points are joined in three dimension, it forms a lattice, and metals occupy the structure of lattice. The space left, which we called void, also we can say this one space which is left, we can call it interstitial sites. So this space is basically we call interstitial sites. So basically the hydrides, metallic or interstitial hydrides, formed by D and F block elements, and metal occupy lattice structure. The space between them, which is unoccupied, we call interstitial sites. And these hydrides which are formed by D and F block elements are always non-stoichiometric. So what is non-stoichiometric? Basically, non-stoichiometric means the ratio of atoms present in the metal hydride. So there is fractional form in which the hydrogen exists. So basically we can say these hydrides are always non-stoichiometric. Why they are non-stoichiometric? Because they have variable composition. See, for example, titanium, we can see that in titanium hydride there is variable composition of hydrogen, varies from 1.5 to 1.8. So basically the composition of hydrogen is in the form of fraction, not a simple whole number ratio. When any of the element of compound is in the fractional ratio, then we call it non-stoichiometric compound. If it is simple whole number ratio, if elements in a compounds are in simple whole number ratio, we call it stoichiometric compounds. If one of them is in fraction, then we call non-stoichiometric compound. So basically these type of compounds have variable composition. For example, titanium hydride, the composition of hydrogen from 1.5 to 1.8. See next example, zirconium hydride, the composition of hydrogen varies from 1.3 to 1.75. See why metallic or interstitial hydrides formed by D and F block elements. See, so basically why these hydrides are called interstitial hydrides? As we know, hydrogen, due to its small size, as the size of hydrogen is small, so basically the space between these metals, which we call interstitial sites, are small in size, and also the size of hydrogen is small. So basically, due to small size of hydrogen occupies some of the interstitial sites. So this site or this side, which we call interstitial, will be occupied by hydrogen due to its small size. So hydrogen, due to small size, occupies some of its interstitial sites, and therefore these are known as interstitial hydrides. And these hydrides are non-stoichiometric because they have variable composition. We have seen the example of titanium hydride. The composition of hydrogen is variable. In zirconium hydride also composition of hydrogen is variable. As these hydrides are metallic hydrides, means these hydrides exhibit properties similar to metal. So basically these hydrides having the properties similar to metal, therefore we call them metallic hydrides. So two types of hydrides we have discussed. One is salt like hydrides, saline hydrides, ionic hydrides formed by S block elements, and next is metallic or interstitial hydrides, which are formed by D and F block elements. We also call interstitial hydrides because due to small size of hydrogen hydrogen occupy some of the interstitial sites. Therefore, these are known as interstitial hydrides, and their properties are similar to metal. Therefore, we call it metallic hydrides. See, as we know that S block element, group 1 and group 2, and also from group number 3 to group number 12. These are basically D block elements, D and F block elements from group number 3 to 12. We also know that S block elements are metal, and also D block elements are also metals. So D block elements are also metals, and metallic or interstitial hydrides are formed by D and F block element. But group number 7, group number 8, and group number 9. But group number 7, because group number 3 to group number 12 comes under D block element. So basically among D block metals of group 7, 8, 9. So group number 7, 8, 9 do not form hydrides. So basically group number 7, 8, 9 do not form hydride. Therefore we call these groups are also known as hydride gap. Why group number 7, 8, 9 called hydride gap? Because no hydride is formed by group number 7, 8, 9 of D block element. And also remember, for group number 6, see, in group number 6 only one element that forms hydride, and that is chromium hydride. So basically in group number 6 only one hydride exists. In D block group number 6 only one hydride exists, which is chromium hydride, and group number 7, 8, 9 do not form hydride. Therefore we call it hydride gap. Now we are going to discuss our next type of hydride, which we call covalent hydride. So basically the covalent hydride is formed by the P block elements and except noble gases. See the next point. So basically the covalent hydrides. So covalent hydrides are formed by P block elements except noble gases. So except noble gases in P block elements, which hydrides are formed? Covalent hydrides are formed. Now we will discuss the types of covalent hydrides. So basically covalent hydrides are divided further into 3 parts on the basis of electrons: electron deficient, electron precise, and electron rich hydrides. See, now we are going to discuss covalent hydrides. We know the covalent hydrides are formed by P block elements except group number 18. See, so basically now we are going to discuss about the covalent hydrides. So covalent hydrides are further divided into 3 parts. One is electron deficient hydride, one is electron precise hydride, and one is electron rich hydride. See, we know that covalent hydrides are formed by P block elements. So these hydrides are formed by P block elements except group number 18. So first we will discuss about the electron deficient hydride. See, what is electron deficient hydride? So basically we know that if there is deficiency of electron in these types of hydride, it means simply these hydrides do not follow Lewis octet rule. As these hydrides do not follow Lewis octet rule, therefore we call electron deficient hydride. And this type of hydride, which we call electron deficient hydride, is formed by group number 13. So basically group number 13 elements of P block form electron deficient hydride. As the octet is not complete, as the octet of central atom is not complete, we call electron deficient. Therefore these hydrides can act as Lewis acids. So these hydrides can act as Lewis acid due to electron deficiency, because do not follow octet rule. It means there is deficiency of electron, so these hydrides have less than 8 electrons. So these hydrides have less than 8 electrons in their valence shell. For example, AlCl3 and BS3. We can also see that in AlCl3, in AlH3, as we are discussing about a hydride, so take it AlH3, AlH3. See, in AlH3 we can see that in aluminium hydride, around aluminium, how many electrons are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. 3 bonds are there, so only 6 electrons are there. It means the central atom is electron deficient. The central atom is electron deficient. So basically the central atom has less electron than required for octet of aluminium. So basically due to electron deficiency, it behaves as electron deficient hydrides. And we can also see in the case of BS3 group 13. So basically group 13 elements form electron deficient hydride. Now see the next. The next category of covalent hydride is electron precise hydride. See, Lewis octet rule is not followed by electron deficient hydride, but here in electron precise hydride, these hydrides follow Lewis octet rule. And basically group number 14 elements form electron precise hydrides. So group 14 elements form electron precise hydrides, and also these follow octet rule. See, for example, methane, silane, germane. As we can see that the central atom is carbon, and around carbon there are 4 hydrogen atoms. So we can see that octet of carbon is complete. 2 to 4 to 6 and 2 8 electrons around carbon, and also the duplet of hydrogen is also completed. Duplet of every hydrogen is completed. So in this case we can see that carbon is a group 14 element, and also Lewis octet rule is followed here. So basically electron precise hydrides are formed by group 14 elements, while electron deficient hydrides are formed by group 13 elements. They act as a Lewis acid because they have less than 8 electrons in valence shell, and they have 8 electrons in the valence shell as required by octet rule. Now we will discuss another type of covalent hydride which we call electron rich hydride. See, so basically next type of covalent hydride is electron rich hydride. See, so basically these types of hydrides, as it is clear from the name electron rich, it means these hydrides contain extra electron pairs. So these hydrides contain extra electron pairs. See, so basically these hydrides are formed from group number 15 to group number 17 elements, as group 18 do not form hydride. So group number 15, group number 16, group number 17 form electron rich hydrides. We can also see the example like NH3. We can see that how many bonds are formed by nitrogen with hydrogen in ammonia? 3 bonds, and there is extra electron pair, In the same way we can see that there is also 3 bonds of hydrogen is formed by phosphorus, and also there is 1 extra electron pair. It means this electron extra pair, due to this extra electron pair, these hydrides are electron rich, and these pairs can be donated to those atoms which have electron deficiency. So basically these hydrides are basically nitrogen group number 15, phosphorus group number 15, oxygen group number 16, sulfur group 16, fluorine group 17, chlorine group 17. So basically as they have extra electron pair, so they can donate this electron pair. Therefore these types of hydride can act as Lewis base. So we have divided covalent hydrides into 3 parts. One is electron deficient hydride, so basically formed by group 13 elements. and acts as a Lewis acid. They have less than 8 electron in the valence shell, do not follow Lewis octet rule. Then we have discussed electron precise hydride, follows octet rule and formed by group 14 elements. And next is electron rich hydride, which we have discussed. This contains extra electron pair. Group number 15 to 17 form these types of hydrides. For example, ammonia PH3, water H2S. So due to extra electron pair, these hydrides act as a Lewis base. Now we will discuss our next topic, which is oxides of hydrogen. See, what are the oxides of hydrogen? So our next topic is oxides of hydrogen. See, so basically we know that the oxide of hydrogen, water is basically the oxide of hydrogen, and we can see that H2O we called water. While we take deuterium in place of hydrogen, as deuterium is an isotope of hydrogen, so D2O we called heavy water. So D2O is called heavy water, and we know the molecular mass of water is 18. The molecular mass of water is 18, while the molecular mass of D2O is 20. We can also see that the boiling point of water is 373. So the boiling point of water is 373, but the boiling point of D2O is more than the boiling point of water. And also we can see the melting point of water. So melting point of water is 0 degree Celsius, means 273 Kelvin, while the melting point of D2O is 274. So melting point and boiling point of D2O is more than water. Why it is more than? Due to high molecular mass. So due to high molecular mass of D2O in comparison to water, the melting point and boiling point of D2O is more than water. Now we will discuss the structure of water. So basically we will discuss the structure of water in 3 phases. So one, we will discuss the structure of water in gas phase. Then we will discuss gas phase, also we can say steam. Then we will discuss the structure of water in liquid phase. Then we will discuss the structure of water in solid phase. See, so basically first we are going to discuss the structure of water in the gas phase. The structure of water in gas phase. See, so basically in gas phase, the water molecules are present in discrete units. So basically in gas steam phase, water molecules exist in discrete form. In gas phase, water molecules exist in the discrete units. As we know, in case of water, when we solve the hybridization, how many electrons are there for hydrogen? 1 valence electron, so 1 into 2 is 2. And for oxygen, how many valence electrons are there? In case of oxygen, the number of valence electrons are 6. See, 2 plus 6 is 8, divided by 2. So basically how many pairs? 6 plus 2, 8 by 2, 4. Steric number is 4. When steric number is 4, then we say the hybridization is sp3. As we can see that oxygen forms 2 bonds with hydrogen. So basically 2 electron pairs are bond pair. So out of these 4, 2 electron pairs are bond pair, while the remaining 2 pair will be lone pair. As it has total 4 electron pairs, because hybridization is sp3, electron pair is 4. Out of these 4 pairs, 2 pairs are bond pair, while the remaining 2 pair will be acts as lone pair. See the structure. So basically this is the structure of water in the gas phase. So water molecules in gas phase or steam phase exist in discrete form. Total 4 electron pairs. So out of 4 electron pairs, 2 bonds are formed between oxygen and hydrogen, while 2 electron pairs are lone pair. As we know, there is a repulsion between lone pair and lone pair. There is repulsion between lone pair and lone pair, and also there is repulsion between lone pair and bond pair according to VACPR theory. Therefore, the angle in sp3 hybridization is 109. The angle in sp3 hybridization is 109 degree. But due to lone pair repulsion and lone pair bond pair repulsion, angle in water decreases from 109 to 104 degree. See, when we discuss about the geometry, so geometry is tetrahedral, geometry described by all electron pairs. While we discuss about the shape, as we know that when we decide the shape, then simply hide the lone pair. When we decide the shape, then simply hide the lone pair. When we hide the lone pairs, to discuss the shape, we can see lone pairs is not a part of shape, so the shape is decided only by the bond pairs. So basically we can see that shape is decided by only this part. We can see that this is a type of V shape. So we say bent V or angular structure, and this is planar. So in gas phase water exists in discrete units and hybridization sp3, but 2 pairs are bond pair and 2 lone pairs, and due to high repulsion lone pair bond pair, angle decreases from 109 to 104, and shape is bent V or angular structure, also we can say planar. Now we discuss the structure of water in another phase, which is liquid phase. See, so basically, as we know, in liquid phase, so basically in gas phase, water molecules are exist in discrete form, while in the liquid phase, water molecules are bonded together, hydrogen bonding. So basically in liquid phase, water molecules are bonded through which bond? Hydrogen bond. See, we can see that this is the one water molecule having electron pair. This is the another water molecule having another electron pairs. So basically lone pair can also form bond with hydrogen. So this is one of the hydrogen bond. So two water molecules are joined together through hydrogen bonding. In the similar way, we can see that if we simply take one water molecule like this one is the one water molecule. So this hydrogen can form hydrogen bond. This hydrogen can form hydrogen bond with another water molecule. In the same way, this hydrogen can also form, this hydrogen of this water molecule can also form hydrogen bonding with another water molecule. And there are also 2 electron pairs. So this electron pair can also form hydrogen bond with this hydrogen, and this electron pair of water can also form hydrogen bond with this hydrogen. So we can see that in this case, by one water molecule in liquid phase, by one water molecule, how many water molecules are attached? One through this hydrogen, one through this hydrogen, one through this lone pair, and one through this lone pair. So basically water molecule in liquid form, how many hydrogen bondings are formed? 4 hydrogen bondings. So basically one water molecule forms 4 hydrogen bonds. Due to this 4 hydrogen bonds, we can say one water molecule is attached. One water molecule is surrounded by 4 water molecules. Now we will discuss the structure of water in another phase, which is solid phase, or we can say ice. See, we can say that this is one water molecule, 2 lone pairs. Then this is another water molecule. This lone pair and hydrogen form hydrogen bond. This lone pair hydrogen bond. In the same way, this hydrogen can also attach with water. This hydrogen can also attach with water. So we can see that there is vacant space. We call this vacant space as voids, and we can see the vacant space in ice. So the structure, due to large vacant space in solid phase, which we called ice, due to vacant space, the structure of ice is similar to open cage like structure. Due to vacant space, the volume is large. When volume is large, it means density is less. So we can say that in liquid water there is less vacant space, while in solid phase there is more vacant space, therefore volume is high. So we can say that the density of ice is less than water. So the density of ice is less than water. So why ice floats on water? Because density of ice is less than water, and the structure of ice is similar to open cage like structure.